You're not even fit to shine her shoes." My mother's voice cut clean through the soft clinking of wine glasses. My father said nothing. He just nodded. And Emma, she smiled, that quiet, satisfied smile that said she'd finally won. The air froze. The room went silent. Humiliation sat heavy in my throat. I'd spent years swallowing their favoritism, paying their bills, pretending it didn't hurt. But that night, something inside me shifted. My hands stopped trembling. My voice didn't. 6 words fell from my mouth, calm, sharp as broken glass. "Then ask Emma to pay your bills." The silence that followed wasn't the end of dinner. It was the beginning of their downfall. Even the candles seemed to flicker nervously, as if the light itself was afraid to move. My mother's jaw tightened. My father's eyes darted toward the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. And for the first time, Emma's smirk faltered. But before that night, before my voice found its edge, there was a lifetime of being invisible. My name is Nora. I'm 28 years old. For most of my life, I've been the background character in my own family's story. Not the star, not even the disappointment, just the extra they forgot to write out of the script. I worked weekends while they went on family trips, covered their bills quietly when things got tight, came home to applause, but never for me. Always for Emma. I worked nights in the ICU, 12-hour shifts filled with alarms, adrenaline, and the metallic sting of disinfectant that never fully leaves your skin. I've held dying hands, restarted hearts, watched families break and rebuild in a single night. But to my parents, that was never worth mentioning. When I saved a life, they barely looked up. When Emma got a promotion, they threw a dinner. 2 years younger, and somehow already treated like the family matriarch. Emma, the golden girl, the chosen one. Her mistakes were softened. Her dreams funded. Her every move applauded. I grew up in the echo of that applause, learning to survive in silence. Their favoritism wasn't quiet. It was deafening. Every certificate of hers hung proudly on the walls. My achievements, forgotten in drawers. When bills piled up, they called me. When Emma overspent, they said, "Help your sister out, just this once." Once turned into always. That dinner, God, I can still see it. The roasted chicken, glowing in the candlelight. Silverware polished to perfection, as if they were expecting guests who mattered. I'd come straight from a night shift, still in scrubs. Exhaustion stitched into every step. Emma swept in late, radiant in a designer dress that probably cost more than my rent. My father hung on her every word, laughing like she was reading scripture. My mother poured her wine, eyes fixed on her favorite child. And me? I sat in my usual spot, the wobbly chair no one else wanted, thinking, this isn't new. It's just another scene in the same old script. Only, I didn't know then that it would be my last time playing the quiet part. The cracks had been forming long before that night, small humiliations that slip under your skin because they're too subtle to fight. My mother's eyes scanning Emma's dress before meeting mine. My father's laughter reserved for her jokes. Silence for mine. The backhanded compliments disguised as care. You're so practical, Nora. You don't need fancy things like Emma. 2 weeks after that dinner, I learned just how invisible I truly was. Lunch break at the hospital, fluorescent lights, stale coffee, the hum of vending machines. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A photo that stopped me cold. My parents, Emma, her boyfriend, palm trees, cocktails, sunlit smiles. The caption read, "Family getaway, just what we needed." At first I thought it was an old post. Then I saw the date, yesterday. No call, no text, not even a passing mention. Photo after photo, Emma building sandcastles, my father snorkeling, my mother holding Emma's hand as the sun set behind them. It wasn't just that I wasn't invited. I'd been erased. I called my mother immediately, my voice shaking, not from anger, but disbelief. You're in Hawaii? My voice came out small, almost lost between breaths. She sighed, the sound soft and dismissive. Oh, Nora, she said lightly, as if I'd asked something foolish. We didn't think you could get time off work. You're always so busy saving lives. You didn't even ask, I whispered. It was last minute, she replied breezily. Emma needed a break after starting her new job. You understand, don't you? I hung up before the lump in my throat became something I couldn't hide. Hours later, Emma texted, Sorry, thought you knew. You're always working anyway. That was the moment it finally sank in. They hadn't forgotten me. They had excluded me. And somehow, they still believed I'd understand. The real humiliation came a few weeks later, on Emma's birthday. They rented out the most expensive restaurant in town. Crystal chandeliers glowed like tiny suns above the tables. Soft jazz drifted through the air. The wine probably cost more than my paycheck. I came straight from another night shift. Hair pinned back. My best dress pressed. Exhaustion hiding beneath makeup that couldn't quite disguise it. I still looked wildly out of place among the sequins and designer gowns. Mom stood and raised her glass. To our Emma, she said proudly, her eyes shining. She's always had the drive, the focus, the future. Some people are just born to succeed. Applause filled the room. I forced a smile. Then Mrs. Chin, one of Mom's friends, leaned toward me. And what about you, dear? What do you do? Before I could answer, my father chuckled. She's still finding her path. Works in a hospital or something. But Emma's really going places. The words hit harder than I expected. I wanted to scream, I save lives. But instead, I raised my glass, swallowed the bitterness, and smiled. That night, as their laughter echoed around the room, something inside me quietly broke. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was final. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was warfare, disguised as love. The birthday humiliation could have been the end of it. I could have buried the shame under exhaustion and called it another ordinary day. But life doesn't always let you stay numb. Sometimes, it hands you the truth in plain sight and dares you to look. It happened a week later. I was at my mother's kitchen table, helping her sort through bills, like I'd done dozens of times before. The blinds were half closed, sunlight cutting sharp lines across piles of envelopes. She passed them to me absent-mindedly, utilities, credit cards, mortgage payments, talking about Emma's latest promotion. Every mention of her name, another small wound. Then I saw it, a thick envelope labeled Emma Lawson, student loan statement. I skimmed it once, then twice, and froze. A red stamp at the bottom read, paid in full. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but every envelope after that said the same thing. Paid, cleared, gone. $45,000. Wiped clean. My pulse started to pound. I turned to the payment history. Something about the account number looked familiar. Too familiar. I grabbed one of my old deposit receipts from my wallet and lined it up beside the statement. The numbers matched. The money wasn't Emma's. It wasn't my parents'. It was mine. My voice trembled when I finally spoke. Did you use my payments? The money I've been sending every month for the mortgage. She didn't even look guilty. Her tone was calm, almost bored. Emma needs to focus on her career, Nora. She shouldn't have to carry debt while she's building her future. My throat tightened. And me? I've been drowning in my own loans, working extra shifts, tutoring after hours. You have stability, she interrupted, as if it explained everything. You're responsible. Emma's path is different. You can handle more. It took me a second to realize I wasn't breathing. My hands shook so violently the papers rustled. You took my money, I whispered. You took my money to pay her loans. Her patience thinned. Her tone hardened. Don't be selfish, Nora. Everything we do is for the family. When Emma succeeds, we all benefit. That word, Selfish cut deeper than I expected. It was the word they'd always used to keep me small, to keep me quiet. That night, I sat alone in the hospital break room, long after my shift ended. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above me. My notepad lay open, filled with figures and facts I couldn't unsee. And that's when Jennifer, our charge nurse, walked in. The nurse dropped into the seat across from me. She didn't offer sympathy. She never did. "You're bleeding yourself dry for people who don't even see you," she said quietly. "That's not family, Nora. That's exploitation." I slid my notepad toward her. I've been sending them money for years. For the house, the bills, even Emma's tuition. She did the math faster than I could. 47,000, she said finally, her voice flat. "That's what they've taken from you." The number hit like a punch. All those sleepless shifts. All those nights I'd come home too tired to eat. Every sacrifice I made had been rerouted to build my sister's perfect little life. I remember staring at that total for a long time. It didn't make me cry. It made me still. Because once you see a pattern clearly, you can never unsee it. That was the night I stopped being their safety net. The first missed payment went unnoticed for a week. Then the calls began. Mum's voice came first, sugary and brittle. "Sweetheart, I think there's been a mistake. The mortgage payment didn't go through." Then Dad. His tone carried the weight of accusation. "You know this family depends on you. Don't you dare make us look irresponsible." Even Emma chimed in a few days later, her voice small and strained. "Mom's freaking out, Nora. Can you just handle it, please? I'm under a lot of stress with work right now." That word again, stress. I almost laughed. I'd spent years living on caffeine and adrenaline, patching together other people's emergencies. But the moment I stopped patching theirs, they fell apart. That's when I made my decision. Calm, strategic, final. I called my mother. "Let's have dinner Saturday night," I said. "We should talk about contributions." There was a pause, then relief in her voice. "Of course, sweetheart," she said brightly. "We'll cook something nice." They thought it was reconciliation. It was preparation. The days leading up to that dinner, I worked my shifts, paid my own bills, and gathered my proof. Every transaction, every receipt, every transfer I'd ever made into their account. I printed them all, page after page, until the folder was thick enough to break the illusion they'd lived behind. Saturday came. Mom cooked like she always did when she wanted control. Roast beef, potatoes, green beans glazed with butter. Dad opened a bottle of wine he couldn't afford without me. Emma arrived last, glowing, her new engagement ring, catching the light like it had something to prove. I sat quietly, the folder resting beside me. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. For once, I wasn't the nervous one. Dinner began with the usual small talk, a performance of family unity, held together by habit. Then Dad cleared his throat, signaling the real conversation. "Nora," he began, voice firm but rehearsed. "We need to talk about responsibility. You can't just stop contributing because you're upset. This family relies on you." Mom leaned in, her tone sweet but sharp. "We all have to make sacrifices. Emma's at a crucial point in her career. When she succeeds, we all rise." Emma smiled faintly, like her entire life depended on that script. Then, Mom said it. The same cruel words she'd thrown at me weeks earlier. Only this time, they landed differently. "You'll never be as good as your sister." The table went still. Even the clock seemed to hesitate. I pushed my chair back slowly, steadying my hands on the edge. Then I said, calm and deliberate, "Then ask Emma to pay your bills." The words sliced through the room like a scalpel. The wine glasses froze midair, and in the silence that followed, so sharp, so absolute. I knew the performance was over. The quiet stretched like a fault line. I could hear the faint ticking of the hallway clock, the hum of the refrigerator, even the soft crackle of candle wax melting down the wick. No one moved, not even Emma. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder, the quiet weapon I'd been building for 2 weeks. I placed it in the center of the table and opened it slowly. Paper whispered as I spread the evidence: transfers, bank statements, loan receipts, an entire history of betrayal, laid bare in black and white. I've paid $47,000 into this family in the past 2 years, I said evenly. The mortgage, Emma's loans, her car, even her credit card debt. Emma blinked, her mouth parting, words faltering. Mom, Dad, I didn't know. I thought you were helping me. Of course she didn't know. That was the point. They'd kept her polished and guiltless, while I carried the weight for all of them. Dad snatched one of the sheets, scanning the numbers. His face flushed red. You're overreacting, Nora. This is family money, my father snapped. Families share. No, I said quietly, sliding another page across the table. Families communicate. Families ask. You didn't. You used me. My mother's jaw tightened. We only did what was necessary. Emma needed support, and I didn't. I cut in, my voice trembling, but not from fear. I've been killing myself with night shifts, sending you money every month, and you spent it like I was your personal bank, her lips pressed into a thin, shaking line. You're being dramatic. I laughed softly, the kind of laugh that only comes when something finally snaps inside you. No, Mom, I'm being accurate. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Emma stared down at the papers spread before her, like they were the ashes of a fairy tale. She'd believed all her life. My father slammed his palm against the table. We're your parents. We did everything for you girls. You should be grateful. That word again. Grateful. Grateful for being robbed, for being erased, for working myself half to death while they toasted Emma's success. I met his eyes and said, calm and clear, you wanted a successful daughter. You just refused to see that you already had one. My mother's eyes darted to Emma, searching for someone to back her up, but Emma's tears were real this time. I didn't know it was your money, she whispered. I thought you were proud of me. I was, I said softly, until I realized everything you stood on was built on my sacrifice. The weight of it hung in the air. Every word, every receipt, every secret truth, finally dragged into the light. My father's shoulders sagged. My mother's fingers twitched at the table's edge, reaching for control that wasn't coming back. You told me I'd never be good enough, I said quietly, that I wasn't even fit to shine her shoes. But the truth is, it was my money that kept your lights on, my hands that paid for her education, my effort that built the illusion of success you're all so proud of. No one spoke. There was nothing left to defend. I gathered the papers back into the folder, each page sliding into place with the finality of a verdict. Then I looked at them, my mother pale and furious, my father hollow, Emma small and broken under the weight of truth. The mortgage stops now, I said. Emma can pay her own bills, and so can you. When I stood, my chair scraped against the floor. A sharp, echoing full stop on a sentence that had taken years to write. As I walked toward the door, I heard my mother's sharp inhale, my father mutter something under his breath, and Emma whisper, "Please, Nora." Wait, but I didn't. Not this time. When the door closed behind me, it felt like the world exhaled with me. For once, the silence wasn't heavy. It was clean. I never went back. Not for Sunday dinners. Not for birthdays. Not even when Emma's name lit up my phone 3 days later with a trembling voicemail. "Please, Nora, can we talk?" I didn't delete it. I just didn't answer. 2 weeks later, I accepted a new position, nurse practitioner at a hospital 3 hours away, $120,000 a year, my own apartment, my own life, the first space I'd ever had where no one used my worth against me. Back home, the house that once smelled of roast dinners and red wine began to rot from the inside out. Without my payments, the mortgage fell behind. Dad called once more, just once. I didn't pick up. 6 months later, I heard from a neighbor that the house was gone, foreclosed. The empire of favoritism had finally collapsed. Emma's engagement crumbled too. Her fiancé left when he realized the life he'd been promised wasn't hers to give. She called again, crying this time, begging for help. I listened to the message once, her sobs echoing through my car speakers, and deleted it, because I finally understood. I was never the weak one. I was the foundation, and once I stepped away, the whole structure of lies fell under its own weight. I didn't need revenge. Watching them face the world without me was enough. In my new city, I built something real. Friends who didn't measure my value by comparison. Co-workers who said thank you. Neighbors who noticed when I wasn't home. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. And when I walked into my new hospital, name tag clipped to my coat, the weight I'd carried for years was gone. Completely. Because peace, I learned, doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being free. Sometimes, walking away is the loudest statement you'll ever make. So if you've ever been the forgotten one, the overlooked sibling, the person who gave everything and got silence in return, remember this. Your worth isn't measured by anyone's applause. It's proven by how you rise when no one's watching. Tell me, have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own peace?